Okay, well, you mentioned chasing, so let's get into it. You founded
Sure.
Girls Who Chase, which means you are
Yes.
encouraging women to go towards severe weather and tornadoes. What is wrong with you?
Yeah, well, it is entirely so. If you're listening to this and thinking to yourself, what is wrong with you? That is a completely human and rational thing, I think, to react with. Um, and it's not so much that we're necessarily encouraging girls and women to run towards severe weather, just to clarify. I think it's more that we wanted to make sure that there was some representation on air for women who work in severe weather. So that could be anything from folks doing research in the field, people in the meteorology or weather space, even weather education. But what I found when I started storm chasing is that there was a bit of a divide in terms of how storm chasers were represented. And it kind of took me a while to respond to it. I think initially because I felt like I was very new to the community and I probably wasn't the right one to be doing this. And eventually got frustrated enough that I felt like at a minimum, it would be great to start an Instagram page that was kind of an aggregator of content for women in chasing. And it was called Girls Who Chase. So it was that action of starting the Instagram page that is what kind of created the superstorm, pun intended, that is now a multifaceted media and education platform, which is what we are. And that encompasses a lot of things, but a lot of it is still targeted toward encouraging girls and women to get into science, and particularly weather if they are interested in that, by busting barriers that we've identified through our time developing this initiative. And one of the primary barriers appears to be education. And what I mean by that is not knowing how to get started, not feeling like, and I'm going to say we because that my thought process was very similar to what I'm hearing from other women. Not feeling like we were seeing other people who look like us doing these things, like storm chasing, for example, and thusly feeling as though we might not belong in this space. So I think that what it has become over time really is a lot of different ways to bust barriers and encourage girls and women to get into STEM. But that's been an evolutionary process for the initiative, for sure.
I think that's all fantastic, and you've touched on all of my questions, so you're a great
All right, so we're
interview.
done.
So we can go, well, we can go
Thanks.
deeper into each one. So this weather thing is really a wrapper for STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math for women and girls, right? So what's the foundation problem there? You've kind of touched on it, but go a little deeper.
Yeah, well, essentially, the development of Girls Who Chase mirrors my own journey into storm chasing. My background and career is in science and environmental communication. And so I have been in the sciences now for nearly 20 years. And along the way, have witnessed some cultural differences that have led to sort of similar assumptions that we don't belong in this space, or that we have to work harder to achieve business goals, gain recognition, some of the issues that we have encountered along the way. And so I waited until I was nearly 40 to start storm chasing. And it was because I was telling myself all of these reasons why I couldn't or shouldn't, up to and including you have to have a degree in meteorology, which I did not. It's dangerous and you have to go with an expert, which we do recommend you do initially. And I didn't know any experts, although I spent a lot of time trying to talk people into taking me with them. And the biggest one of all, I think, and the most insidious in a way, was not seeing people who look like me, storm chasing. And so somewhere in there telling myself, and not consciously, but more subconsciously, that I didn't belong in this space. And these were all things that I decided. Nobody told me these things. And so I excluded myself from this thing that I very much wanted to learn how to do and start doing. And that is the foundation and the energy behind it. So what I often say is that it's really two-pillared. The first is just this notion of empowering yourself to go do the thing. And it doesn't have to be storm chasing. This happens to be the foundation for it. And I think it's added a lot of energy to the conversation because it's cool and interesting. And the second pillar is around women in STEM and recognizing some of these patterns in barriers that we have encountered and how to bust some of them.
Yeah, that's fascinating. You said don't belong twice, and I'm fascinated by human behavior, and you've answered how to start doing that, is to start doing it, but maybe pull the thread a little bit of the don't belong thing. That's interesting to me.
So I think what we've discovered here is a bit of a cyclic pattern that has led to this. So there is no human antagonist in this story. It's more of a pattern-oriented antagonist. And what I mean by that is a cycle of culture and media that is perpetuating this sense of not belonging. And it comes in a lot of different ways. The major one, I think, where media can help is kind of the problem and the solution is in representation. But a lot of times that representation is an answer to what we're seeing day to day. So what I mean by that is all of the current media that's out there that covers storm chasing, whether it's reality television or stories about incidents that have occurred in the past or interviews that have been done or people that are regularly on air, it is largely men because storm chasing is a male-dominated space. And as a result of that, you know, it's almost like that defines who a storm chaser is in culture. And thusly, this cycle sort of perpetuates where then media cover more of that because they think that's what people are interested in. And then there's this sort of definition set. And this is a very niche seeming topic, like women in storm chasing, you would think. But the response that I've gotten to Girls Who Chase and to surfacing these issues is massive. And so I think it's in part because there are a lot of spaces like this that operate in parallel to some of this stuff that we have brought up and are discussing. And there are lessons to be learned from this experience in terms of the change that's being created. And some of the issue is just, I feel like what I encountered was people saying, well, this is the way that it's always been, so it's just always going to be like that. And I understand that response. But I think what Girls Who Chase did was interrupt that pattern just by showing up and saying, well, why? Why does it have to be like this? Why can't we mix it up a little bit? And then the response that I got since then, including from a lot of weather networks and other types of media, was, oh, we had no idea that we were contributing to this. Let's change that.
Wow.
So it's not that, again, any of this was done intentionally, but I think, again, this combination of sort of self-limitation, lack of representation, perhaps a feeling of kind of lack of belonging in a community, which is a self-created community, right? That's actually very diverse, has a lot of different kinds of people in it. And then, you know, there's of course some of that intimidation, like this is, you know, understanding how to forecast is technical. So people get worried about that as well. And so some of what we're doing also is trying to increase access, find different ways to train around things like forecasting and storm chasing and storm spotting, just to kind of continue to break down some of those barriers. So there's a lot going on here socially that's just not really that cut and dry a story.
So you say it is technical in nature. It's also dangerous, but somebody who is interested in this, or somebody who knows somebody, parent, things like that, who knows especially a young lady who's interested in this. So what's the first step?
It doesn't have to be dangerous. So I think some of the, again, issues with these sort of cultural representations of storm chasing is that you often see somebody in a tank driving into the outer circulation of a tornado, or somebody in a vehicle blowing their windshield out in hail. And some of those things get shown a lot because they're, they go viral. People want to see that kind of stuff. It's kind of like watching a train wreck. And I totally get that. But there are actually a lot of folks out there chasing from a safe distance, taking photos, reporting to the National Weather Service, doing scientific research that is completely safe. And there are a lot of ways to stay safe doing that, which is why a lot of our training is founded in education and safety focused practices. So the answer to how to get started, really, it kind of depends on what you're interested in. If it's a meteorology degree, there are wonderful programs out there, and we have tons of contacts and are happy to link you up with them. If you're just interested in learning about severe weather, or you're curious about how to get started, we've actually aggregated a ton of free resources that I have found very sort of technically accessible, is maybe the way to put it. So broken down, so it's not super scientific, a lot of jargon, hard to kind of process through, on a web page that's called girlswhochase.com/education. And 98% of those resources are completely free. So I think some of the issue is that when people decide they want to start storm chasing or get into severe weather, you don't sort of wake up and go to Storm Chasing 101. Until recently, it didn't exist. And you kind of just decide you're a storm chaser, and then the amount of education that you desire from there is really a personal decision. So now we have two options for you. You can go check out that link that aggregates those resources and see for yourself what that entails. Or you can join us at our annual Storm Chasing 101 event we call Spring Training, which is coming up now in a little over 2 weeks.
And you're doing that once a year right now?
We are doing it once a year. We record the whole thing and package it up, so you can access it any time of year.
And is it all virtual, or people can go?
It is all virtual, yeah. Okay. So it's a day-long, fully remote via Zoom right now. And it's affordable too, really, because the point here is access. It's not for us to make money off of this. We want people to have access to these resources. So what I've done is I've basically identified a lot of great teachers who are great at science education to give presentations on various topics relevant to storm chasing and forecasting. So there's a series of presentations, and then we have 2 all-female panels focused in largely meteorology and storm chasing. So one is kind of focused around jobs, like careers in the weather space. This year we've actually mixed it up, so it's not just meteorology, it's folks who've made careers in weather in a variety of different ways. Mm-hmm. And the other is storm chasing, and we have a different kind of focus every year. So last year we focused on storm chasing in different countries. And what that was like. And this year we're focusing on different kinds of storm chasing. So I've got somebody who chases out of a mobile radar truck as part of research, someone who teaches a storm chasing class. Yeah. And we have a fire chaser who has covered the fires in LA. So there's lots of different options available to you, and some people find a niche that isn't typical. And so we just want to open up the discussion and help people find each other through networking, break down some of those barriers in terms of being, I understand that people are intimidated by contacting someone cold and asking them what they do or how to get into it. So we're trying to break that down. And then we've just actually added we're calling it a networking lunch. Because we got a lot of requests that people wanted to meet other chasers, or maybe meet a chase partner, or find someone in their region. So we're going to offer networking rooms with storm chasers who will kind of hang out in there to chat with people in your region and hopefully make some contacts.
Nice, very nice. Talk about that networking too, especially in the context of young people, young women who have this interest but haven't done anything yet.
Yep.
It's community. You're building community, but some people are shy.
Yes. Yeah, it's funny. Like I said, I created Girls Who Chase initially to amplify women in storm chasing. And what I have found over and over and over is that actually community and that sort of sense of collectively rising together has been the most powerful component of Girls Who Chase. And in particular, I think a piece of it is representation, but a piece of it is just realizing that there are other women out there that you can talk to who do want to mentor or maybe give you some advice or have thoughts about different ways that you can accomplish your dream. And knowing that there are people out there who support you, and most of all, that you're not alone in doing this, right? We seem to all share some of these barriers together. That knowing that you're not alone, I think, is just absolutely crucial for a lot of folks to take the next step in their education journey or in a career related journey.
Yeah. That's wonderful. I mean, congratulations to you. Let's go to you personally for a second. Best chase. Tell us the story.
Oh, man. I mean, so best chase will forever and always be my first tornado. I actually started chasing via a storm chasing tour, which if you didn't know those exist, they do. And we didn't see much because it was kind of late season and a last minute thing. But about 2 weeks after we got back, I essentially had learned just enough to be dangerous and to recognize that I actually could teach myself to forecast and storm chase on my own. So about 2 weeks after that, I was working from home. I live just north of Denver, Colorado, and watched a storm come out of the foothills that had sort of a presentation that indicated that it was a rotating storm. And had learned just enough again to recognize that rotating storm and thought to myself, man, that thing is going to do it. And I'm going after it. So I it had already kind of moved northeast of me and I wanted to catch up with it. So I flew out of the house and I was in such a hurry that I was still in my pajamas from working at home, and made kind of every rookie mistake in the book. I was just on the wrong side of the storm the whole chase because I had gotten behind. I got stuck in traffic because I drove right through an urban area, which is just a no-no. And these are not things that you realize until you kind of get out there and do it. And finally crested a hill about 45 minutes later, and in front of me was my first tornado spinning in a field, luckily. And I just have this wonderful memory of kind of jumping up and down outside my car in my pajamas, shouting, I did it. Like, this is the best.
That's fantastic. What a great, great story. And I hope there are pictures.
There are pictures of the tornado, but not of me, sadly.
Oh,
there were no selfies.
No
I
selfies.
know. I will forever regret that.
Okay, that was best chase. Biggest mistake from an educational standpoint.
Yeah. I've definitely learned way more from my mistakes than from my successes, I should say. And if I had to sort of recap, that there were probably two mistakes made. It was in 2020. I was in Southeast Colorado, and it was a very high instability day. And I don't know that I had quite given credence to high instability as much as I probably could have or should have. And what that ended up meaning was that we were in between a number of rotating storms that had all kind of gone up at the same time and didn't give them enough breathing room. And essentially what happened is they had made a C, and then our escape route, both escape routes from our current location at the time were cut off. So our choice was essentially to either ride it out and stay where we were, or kind of try to stay in one of the more safe areas and get away from the like rotating bits of the storm. So that sea closed around us. Essentially, we were swallowed along with a lot of other chasers. And I just remember what was probably a 7 or 8 minute drive, but what felt like a 2-hour drive. And it was just green. We call it the green monster, actually, because folks who were outside of it taking photos, it was like very green, glowing. And just stuff was flying at the car sideways. And in addition, a lot of Southeast Colorado has no cell signal. And chasers can use boosters, but you can't boost nothing. So we lost data very quickly, and thusly didn't know exactly where the true danger parts of the storm were, especially as it had swallowed us. And so we didn't know what interactions had occurred between the different cells. And I just kept waiting for the wind to shift so I could drive into a ditch. And so a lot of learning came from that one. give high instability days a lot more breathing room, because not only did it close around us, it also sped up. And so we were having a hard time getting away from it. Obviously, our escape routes, our safety zones didn't serve us during that chase. But then what I also did was get myself a Wi-Fi hotspot that is actually runs on a rural carrier in eastern Colorado, so that I never lose data in those instances, especially if I'm out there chasing alone.
Fantastic. Okay, this is the plug section. Plug anything and everything that you want.
Awesome. I mean, I guess before I plug, I would just like to say that if there's one thing that people take away from this conversation, it's that the reason Girls Who Chase truly exists is because we want girls and women to know that they can do anything. And whatever your thing is, it doesn't have to be storm chasing. So that's probably the most important message here. In terms of a plug, I'm really excited that we've got spring training, which is our remote, fully online Storm Chasing 101 training coming up on March 1st. All of the information about spring training can be found at girlswhochase.com/spring training. So if you're interested in really getting into the mechanics, or you would like to start chasing, or you just want to understand severe weather better, please go check that out. In addition, spring training 2023 and 2024 have been recorded and packaged up and are available for you at any point as well. And they are also linked off of that website. So they are all meant to create kind of a comprehensive library of learning resources. And I think, if you would also like to engage with Girls Who Chase, we are on social media. We're on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Facebook under Girls Who Chase. If you search for us. So you're welcome to check out the content of the many folks that we support and share there as well. And if you are someone who collects that content yourself, we would love to see it and help you share it as well. So all of that is captured at girlswhochase.com. That would be the easiest thing to do. So come check us out.